I love your home already, and I haven't even seen it. Does that sound crazy? It's not. When we improve our surroundings, we simultaneously empower ourselves, which means every inch of space within your reach right now is an opportunity to tell the story you want to be living. Tell me that's not its own kind of wonderful. I have spent the last 15 years consulting clients and their homes through the wisdom of Feng Shui, intentional design, and some crystal clear communication. And you know what happens when you bring those three together? Life-changing magic. Your home is already in a conversation with you, so why not learn how to merge that awareness with some simple, straightforward, and smart action to co-create the life you want? I'm Amanda Gibby Peters, and I am here to help you learn how. Welcome to House Therapy. So it's that time again to reach into the mailbag and answer a few of your cues. And per our usual, we've got a hefty conversation ahead in today's episode. So this might be a come back, listen again, and take some notes episode. Now, before we grab hands and plunge in together, remember, if you've got a question you'd love to hear answered here, you can send it to Amanda@simpleshui.com. That's Amanda@simpleshui.com with podcast Q in the subject line. And on that note, let's get started on all of the A's for this month's cues. All right, question 1. What do you do with the front door that's on the side of the house? Do the same rules follow? Does your bagua map change? So let's just quickly talk about the bagua, also referred to around here often as the Feng Shui map. There are a couple ways to read this map, and I actually cover those in my Become Your Own Feng Shui Consultant course. So if you want to learn more about those details, I've included them in the show notes. But like I said, this map can be applied a couple different ways depending on the school of Shui you're following or practicing. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a coming episode. So for most of my clients, and every consult truthfully is a little different, I will mostly work with what I call, or what is often referred to, I should say, as the 3-door gate bagua, which essentially means that you're going to align the bottom of that Feng Shui map with the wall of the front door. And to be crystal clear, when I say front door, that means the architecturally intended front door. So if you look at the bagua map, and I want you to think of it like a tic-tac-toe board, your front door will usually fall into one of the following areas: wisdom and knowledge, career and life journey, or helpful people and travel. So if you're standing at your front door looking into the house, this means your wealth area is the far back left-hand square of that tic-tac-toe board. The far right back square is your love and relationship area. And the middle square, that middle section of the tic-tac-toe board, is health. From there, you can probably figure out the rest pretty easily. So I would orient the map, per your question, off your front door. Now, I want to answer a question here that you didn't ask, and maybe it doesn't apply to you, but it is worth mentioning in case it does, or for anyone else listening who doesn't have an easily seen front door. Since the front door is considered the mouth of qi, we want to make it as easy and sixth sense-ish as possible to instinctually know where to find you. Oftentimes, when doors are easily discerned, opportunities or refreshments, energy, new ideas, etc., come to us with a noted frequency. But when you can't discern where the front door is as easily, it might feel that those opportunities aren't getting to you with a frequency you'd like or even are used to, you know? So if this is you, I have a few ideas to get your own creative genius musing. So let this list just be the start of what you could possibly whip up to make the most of drawing attention, energy, chi to your front door. So I want you to create the sense of a clear path forward, especially if there isn't one, and then accentuate it. So what this means is if you have a path, play it up. If you don't, sort of use some of these ideas to create the sense of one. So that could be adding light along the path or letting lights create a path. You know, these can be the solar lights that you pick up, super simple. You can plant red or really bright flowers either along the path, or you can use pots of flowers or even bright pots themselves to indicate, hey, this is the runway to my front door. If you don't have a path, you might consider pavers or something else that's almost going to act like an arrow pointing out, again, a clear direction forward. So any and all of this is essentially doing this. It's creating a visual breadcrumb trail to your front door. It's creating a natural draw for the eye, and energy follows the eye, which means then those opportunities know where to find you. By the way, this also means you don't want to have anything overgrown or anything that needs to be trimmed. When foliage starts to go rogue, it will create an additional challenge for energy. Again, energy meaning opportunities, possibilities, the things you're calling into your life. It'll create an additional challenge or roadblock, if you will, for those things to reach you. Another really simple thing you can do is employ light near the front door. So put out the brightest bulbs possible in your overhead or porch lighting. And if you don't turn the lights on often, that's okay. The potential is still there, you know, being able to turn light on with the flick of a wrist, and that alone will start to yang up the space. And when I say yang here, I mean it's going to be an energy attraction of its own. Another personal and favorite interpretation of mine when it comes to light is adding in twinkly lights around the door, either on a potted plant, a nearby tree, or even kind of wrapping them up in a lantern. I mean, when I think about twinkly lights, I don't know many who aren't charmed and drawn in by them. Definitely keep a welcome mat at the front door. These just have a really crystal clear communication to them. It sort of says, this is the place, you've arrived. And keep yours clean. When it starts to look faded or as if it has seen better days, replace it. A wind chime also lures and gives us a similar sense of come hither. So if you can, hang one nearby and it will provide you a big assist. A wreath on the front door, or something that I like to refer to as my front door swag, will always grab attention. And probably my favorite suggestion of all, for those who are willing and can, paint the door a welcoming color. Pick a hue basically that stands out from the rest of your house. Like I said, energy likes to follow the eye, and nothing says hello, honey, quite like a flashy door. Okay. Question 2. My boyfriend and I, who live together, have issues with taxes, accountants, owing more, not feeling supported by our accountants, not understanding stuff, missing documents. We're both self-employed, and this has run across 2 houses. Is there somewhere in Feng Shui that represents taxes? Okay, so there are several ways to address this. So I want to start with the areas of our home and lives associated with money. Your career gua, your purse or wallet, and the idea or the ability, the chi of accumulating wealth, which in this situation, I'm thinking of wealth as the assistance and guidance of others, as well as the resources to get in front of those taxes. So first, I mentioned the career area. Again, this reading of the bagua map can be pretty straightforward in some homes. In others, it might be a little more tricky. So if you're confused, head over to the resources for this week's episode and grab the link for the bagua post in the show notes, Or again, check out my online course, Become Your Own Feng Shui Consultant. All right, so typically standing at the front door, looking into your home, imagining everything under your roof being divided again into that tic-tac-toe board, the career area is going to fall in the very front center square of your home. Many times, but not all, the front door will be centered in the front of the house, and that would be the career area. So what I want you to do is look for the career area of your home, and then I want you to take that map and apply it to your office, your living room, and your bedroom. Again, orienting this map off the door or entry into each of those rooms, and do one of the following. Clear any clutter that's residing in those spots and make sure the floors aren't weighed down with stuff that needs to find a home or be put away. If it makes sense to the space, add something that suggests water. Fresh flowers are the easiest and quickest, but anything associated with water would work well here. Why water? Because water is tied to money, it's tied to finances, and it speaks to the energy of flow. Finally, keep the energy of money or anything that symbolizes it to you in this life area as well. So this could be actual cash, or it could be anything that inspires your understanding and a better relationship with money. Okay? Next, I want you to feng shui your wallet and purse. So not only does this space symbolize your financial potential and prowess, it also speaks to that financial freedom we all love. So give yours a really good purge and cleaning. And here's what I mean by purging. Purge the receipts, the grocery list. If yours just continues to be a nest of what I will refer to as paper junk, coupons, receipts, lists, etc., I want you to clear out that clutter because it really holds the energy of spending money. You don't have to throw those things away. Just place them in a folder or envelope that you can easily access if or when you need them, or throw them away if you don't. Also, streamline your money and your credit cards. Okay, so for money, have all of your bills facing the same direction. And for those credit cards, if any of them are causing you financial strain or any of them are maxed out, remove those from your wallet. I also want you to, when you've got it cleansed out, you've got everything in order and it's feeling like, place a pinch of sea salt in your wallet. Salt draws energy to it, and wallet energy is money mojo. Now, oftentimes I'll get asked, how many times should I replace this? I would say do this once a week, the whole process. Purge, streamline, get those bills facing the same way, and then finish it off with a pinch of sea salt. Okay, we're going to wrap this with a few shui specific remedies for clarity around your situation. So, depending on the season that you're in when you're listening to this, my first suggestion when it comes to clarity is always clean the windows. Windows represent the eyes of a home, and they are symbolic of our ability to see things clearly. And when we have weather and grime coating them, I promise you're not seeing the whole picture. So give yours a good wash or hire someone to come do it. And while you're having those polished, shine up the mirrors too. And before you move on from the mirrors in your house, do a quick inspection. Make sure that those mirrors aren't reflecting anything that's doubling, anything that suggests confusion, disorganization, not seeing things clearly, or things not being straightforward. My second shui specific suggestion for you is to make sure you're in command position in your bedroom and the office. We've talked about that in a lot of other episodes, so I won't go into those details. Do a quick edit and make sure your counters aren't housing things you never or rarely use. So the reason this is my third Shui specific suggestion for you is horizontal surfaces are like creative landing zones. And when we are calling in new opportunities or new ways of seeing things or looking for something to land in our lives, we actually need to have the room for them to arrive. And my final Shui specific remedy for you is hang a bell inside your front door or on your office door. So a bell on your front door is a way of calling opportunities your way. You could also use wind chimes, but I like the bell here over the wind chimes. A bell on the office door is going to clear passage for clarity to come in around your business decisions, including how to manage your taxes. And you can empower this remedy by stringing and hanging that bell with red string. Okay, I hope a few of those ideas resonate and work really well and really quickly. Okay, question 3. My son, who is away at uni, I love that. My son, who's away at uni studying film, visited home during the holiday season and often continues his studies when he's home. He also has anxiety, depression along with ADHD, and therefore has scattered energy and is a big procrastinator. How can I add some chi without invading his space, as I know he has to own his own chi, but he does need help with this? The color scheme is gray and white in his decor. Any tips here are greatly appreciated. Okay, so anytime I get questions like this, I have to first and foremost say none of my suggestions are substitutions for medical advice, so please always consult your doctors and medical experts first, thinking of working with Shui as supplementary support only, okay? So anxiety is often, or at least in what I've seen in my work, is often related to the elements fire and metal being given preferential treatment in a space. So if you want to learn more about the elements, check out my free video series, Shui Time, over on my site. There is a video dedicated to each element. And so it's a really great way to get a quick profile on each of them. And again, we dive into these in my course too. So that's another option for going deeper into this conversation. But back to metal. Let's talk about metal specifically. This element is suggested in the colors gray and white. So the fact that anxiety is often related to the elements fire and metal being given preferential treatment, and the fact that you mentioned that was the color scheme, I'm going to just kind of fast track us to a way of balancing that out. And again, this is a bigger conversation, but I want to give you an answer that feels within reach. So when we look at the 5 elements, there are all different cycles and ways of working with them. And when we are trying to manage elements that tend to be a little bit more dominant, we can work with an element that draws energy off that. Again, I know this is a little big, but stay with me. So water is the element that balances out both metal and fire. Water puts out fire. That's pretty straightforward. And water itself drains metal. And what I have seen is it's usually the element that is missing most in spaces where anxiety runs on full tap. So water really encourages behavior that, favors reflection and stillness, and it provides you a chance to be more present. Another way that we can work with water, besides something like, say, fresh flowers, is you can bring in a few, don't go overboard here, but a few darker hues. And instead of working with the color black, I would try something more dark blue, again, as this suggests, moving water, which can help motivate us along our professional or educational paths, okay? Another thing when it comes to anxiety that I like to be mindful of is bright overhead lights. So if there aren't lamps in the room, maybe consider introducing 1 or 2. And if the option is there, you might want to consider putting the overhead light on a dimmer. Another thing, if the walls are bright white and bare, that can be a little bit anxiety provoking. So you don't need to paint the walls necessarily, but consider putting a few things up on them that can add a little bit of color and break up that stark white. When things are really bright white around us, it can be hard to turn our minds off. All right. And then the other thing that I'll mention with anxiety is EMFs can exacerbate that sense of anxiousness. So I know this is the impossible ask, but you can always invite him to consider not having his phone right by him while he sleeps and not having the TV or devices on all the time in his room. Now, I'm going to back this suggestion up with a real life experience. A couple years ago, I was invited to be on a podcast with some younger 20-somethings. And one of the things we talked about was the influence of the devices in the bedroom. And one of the podcast hosts had mentioned that he really struggled with getting to sleep, staying asleep, waking up, feeling rested, which, 1 or 2 nights, not a big deal, but as that compounds, it can really make us feel on edge. So I shared with him that when I suggest this in workshops, something that has become a little bit of a trend in my world is people will get back to me, and thanks to all the devices today that kind of help people track their sleep, they will note that when they don't have the TV on, when they leave the phone out of the room, when they don't bring the laptop to bed, they actually notice that they're getting deeper sleep. And so he felt motivated by that and reported back the same thing. So anytime I am giving someone the impossible ask, I encourage them to pay attention to how they feel. And if there is a way of tracking how you sleep without a TV in the bedroom, how you sleep without your phone bedside, oftentimes if you can see those results posted, it will be motivation enough for you to consider a different way of having those things in your bedroom. Maybe not right by your bed, maybe across the room, or maybe having a time that you shut down and you put those things outside of your room and you can get to them first thing in the morning. All right, now let's go to some of the other parts of your question. You mentioned depression. So depression can be amplified when we ignore opportunities to refresh the chi. So if he's not already, really encourage him to make the bed, insist that he opens the blinds or curtains in the morning to let the room sort of flood with whatever sunlight is available. Remove anything that suggests struggle from his room. Have him do a little dusting or putting away clothes, just that general zhuzhing of the space. Even cleaning out underneath the bed, around the computer equipment, on the desk, the bookshelves, you get the idea. And if he's open to it, I always like adding a little orange essential oil to the cleaning because I think it goes a long way in perking up the chi. So it's kind of a win-win for your efforts. We also want to be able to see the room for what it is, not something underneath any of that neglected housekeeping or messes. And the reason this is because when things are weighed down, when we walk into a space and it looks weighed down or suffocated, oftentimes we'll feel the same way. So challenge him to clean up things that are on the floor if this happens to be the scenario in his room. And instead of going for perfection, go for 20% of the room, go for 30% of the room, go for 50% of the room. Give him an achievable goal. Finally, one of the ways that I will explore the other thing that you mentioned, ADHD, when I'm working with a client and this comes up, I will see if there's an opportunity to bring in more earth energy. So, we're kind of diving into the elements here today with this question, but earth is the element of cohesion, stability, comfort, almost an even pacing, if you will. So a little earth expression in his space could help. And you can add it in with color, weight, softer decor, heavier decor, materials, artwork. There's a lot of different ways to express earth. So neutral hues, or even those muddy or matted tones, anything that looks like it maybe had a little bit of brown mixed into it. So think like your olive green, that brick red, all of those colors will comply really well with the earth energy. Anything weighty, like heavier furniture, or anything that is square tends to hold energy in place reliably, right? Like if you think about squaring things down, like let's square down the details or tack down those details, right? That's very earth energy. And then any imagery of open landscapes, lush fields, or even mountains would work wonders for introducing some of that stable chi that earth is so known for. All right. The last suggestion I have for you for working with earth happens to be a favorite of mine. So if you're someone who enjoys a good essential oil, vetiver is one of my favorites. It is persuasively grounding, and having used it for all the anxieties and sort of mood swings over the years, I can tell you it really does have a reassuring, calming, and enduring presence. And it happens to pair really well, I think, with lavender or sandalwood. So if it's a note that you don't immediately prefer, you can add a little bit of those in too. All right, wowza. We just bit into a lot of shui, didn't we? Now listen, if you love learning shui, you want to learn more shui, you want to feast on all the ways to empower your house and power up yourself, do yourself a favor and check out my online course, Become Your Own Feng Shui Consultant. We cover the basics of shui in 6 modules, and we touched on a few of those today, like the bagua, the 5 elements, and how to lift your own chi. And much like these episodes, each module has its own Q&A too. Even better, something brand new this year, 2023, I am hosting a live monthly Q&A session for everyone who's taking the course. So if these Q&A episodes are your favorite, I want you to imagine for a minute what an hour of it might feel like. We just had our first one the other day, and I promise you these sessions are all mini masterclasses in Feng Shui. So if you're interested, head over to the show notes or over on my site at simpleshui.com to learn more. And on that note, I want you to have yourself a high decibel kind of week, star faces, and please keep those questions coming. And that's our episode, my loves. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to head over to simpleshui.com if you're craving a bigger serving of house love. And if you like what you're hearing, I hope you follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you love what you're learning, will you leave me a review? Your note will totally make my day and help even more people find the show. Have a fabulous day, and I can't wait to meet you back here next week.